Welcome back to our journey through the fascinating world of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime's Light Novel. Let's continue from the last part, where we left.
Ramirez sounded like a guy on a prank video, spilling all the secrets to the unsuspecting victim. Upon closer inspection, Rimuru noticed that Adelman had evolved from a white to a white to a white king, his magical power skyrocketing. Alberto had skipped the Death Knight stage entirely, becoming a Death Paladin, a super high-level monster. Rimuru realized that White Kings and Death Paladins had magicule levels comparable to an archdemon. They seemed to have evolved effortlessly, surpassing all expectations. As for the dragon, Ramirez revealed that it was Adelman's pet. Rimuru vaguely recalled Adelman mentioning having a pet, but he didn't expect it to be such a formidable-looking creature. It was a death dragon, the top predator among undead monsters. Rimuru realized he should have been informed about it earlier, acknowledging the importance of clear communication in upper management. As for how the battle unfolded, there isn't much to say. Adelman didn't move from his throne, and the death dragon stayed by his side. Only Alberto stepped forward, defeating all of them himself. Mark, Minos, Bardish was stopped by a curse's sword, and Mark was slashed down. Zhen was caught off guard, allowing Alberto to swiftly defeat him with his speed. This surprised Shingi, who quickly used a holy cannon magic spell against Alberto. This spell was uncommon for civilians but common among paladins. Shingi's immigration papers didn't mention any paladin training, so it must have been a hidden ability for him. The spell hit Alberto directly, but he didn't move to dodge it. Instead, he swung his sword down on Shingi, ending the battle abruptly. Isn't Alberto weak against holy attacks because he's undead? Many people thought the same, but Alberto remained unharmed, all thanks to Adelman. Adelman had a hidden skill called Holy Evil Inversion, which swapped the effects of holy and evil attributes. So even though Alberto was undead, he was protected from holy attacks by this skill. Adelman used his skill to change Alberto's attribute from evil to holy. Even though this change didn't affect his equipment, as Alberto was undead, his cursed gear couldn't drain any life force. So, his elemental attribute didn't really matter in that regard. Plus, if an ally applied that skill to him, there was no chance of his body resisting it. This turned Alberto into a holy undead, which seemed like a strange joke, but thanks to Adelman's holy evil inversion skill, it became a reality. Adelman, being a spiritual life form, naturally resisted elemental attacks. Most melee strikes were ineffective against him. Together, they overcame their weakness against holy attacks. It seemed impossible for any ordinary dungeon-running team to defeat them. So Adelman emerged victorious without even using any of the magic he was taught. Shingi's team was defeated in a rather uneventful manner, fading into clouds of light before leaving the chamber. Watching Adelman shout his dedication loudly, Rimuru wondered if Adelman's group was too powerful for floor 60. He remembered advising Adelman to fight back with a party if approached, but this seemed excessive. Rimuru thought it was close to fraud because with such powerful monsters, they could easily overpower smaller kingdoms. He decided to talk to Ramirez about it later, but for now, he wanted to congratulate Adelman on his victory. Great job, Adelman. Why don't you come up to the control room? No need to talk through the screen like this, Rimuru suggested. Adelman eagerly accepted the invitation, expressing his joy and honor. Rimuru then asked if Alberto could join as well, and Adelman agreed. As for the Death Dragon, Rimuru instructed it to keep guard elsewhere due to space constraints. Despite the dragon's disappointment, Rimuru stood firm. Xian was asked to prepare tea for Adelman and Alberto, prompting her to question if Alberto could drink it. Rimuru realized his mistake, considering Alberto's skeletal form, but still wanted to extend the gesture. Eventually, Adelman and Alberto arrived, expressing their gratitude and reverence towards Rimuru. Adelman and Alberto kneeled before Rimuru, showcasing their newfound power in person. Rimuru praised Alberto's combat skills and Adelman's role as guardian, urging them to continue their excellent work. Veldora and Ramirez chimed in with their own praise, leaving Rimuru unsure of what to add. Expressing his surprise at their growth, Rimuru avoided mentioning his initial doubts. Both Adelman and Alberto were moved by the acknowledgement. Rimuru offered them seats, feeling a pang of guilt. Alberto, unable to drink the tea, expressed gratitude for the gesture, while Adelman found solace in the aroma. Rimuru couldn't help but feel Alberto's appreciation was overdone, realizing Alberto had constructed a temporary body within the labyrinth using magicules. Why not have a full body like Alberto? Rimuru suggested to Adelman. Confused, Adelman hesitated, explaining his preference for a certain image. Accepting his decision, Rimuru shifted the conversation to Adelman's development of holy evil inversion. Adelman credited Sir Beretta and Lady Luminous for their assistance, revealing that Luminous taught him day-night inversion as an apology, which Beretta then modified with his skill reverser, allowing Adelman to master it. So there it was. Luminous probably felt bad for letting the 7 days clergy cause trouble. As for Granville's attempt on Adelman's life, Rimuru had his own theory. The 7 days clergy were obsessed with maintaining their power, and Granville may have seen Adelman as a test if he couldn't overcome their trap. He wasn't worthy of being a guardian. Rimuru pondered Granville's lonely end, but decided not to mention it to Adelman, hoping he'd realize it on his own someday. Changing the subject, Rimuru asked Adelman if he could defeat the guardian of floor 70, clarifying his question when Adelman seemed confused. Currently, floors 61 through 70 were known as the Golem Zone, filled with mechanical sentries. Some area bosses there even used prototype firearms. The zone was designed as a test for healers and adventuring parties, with various traps like landmines. The main boss, a modified elemental colossus called the Demon Colossus, was created by Vester and Kaijin. It had strong magisteel armor and could be piloted remotely by Beretta. Its layered armor made it invincible against attacks, ensuring that Shinji's party wouldn't pass floor 70. After witnessing Adelman's strength in battle, Rimuru began reconsidering his plans. Asking Veldora for his opinion, they both agreed that Adelman was stronger than the Demon Colossus. So Rimuru decided to promote Adelman to floor 70, confident in his abilities. When the Raphael started providing power comparison statistics, Rimuru politely declined, stating that it was more about perception than numbers. Upon hearing that, Adelman and Alberto promised to always support Rimuru and knelt down to show they meant it. Rimuru saw that they were different from before. He thought the Demon Colossus didn't seem like a real boss monster and was too risky to keep around. He thought about giving it a soul or putting someone inside to control it, but there were no plans for that yet. So he decided to give Adelman and his team a higher rank. After talking with Ramirez, they changed the dungeon around, moving the floors from 51 to 60 to where 61 to 70 used to be. Following Adelman's impressive display, the dungeon underwent a restructuring in its hierarchy. Satisfied with the outcome, Rimuru was about to dismiss Adelman from the control room when Diablo, who had been silent until then, interjected. Diablo reported that his servant Raisin had urgently requested an audience, citing the arrival of his former instructor named Ghidorah. Although Rimuru was unfamiliar with Ghidorah, Raphael noted that he was an author of several sorcery books. Upon hearing that, Rimuru found about Ghidorah's reputation and Raisin's magic skills and was curious about meeting Ghidorah. But with a big fight with the Empire coming, Rimuru and Xian were worried that meeting now might be dangerous. Xian was especially worried and said they shouldn't meet to stay safe. Rimuru listened to Xian because it's smart to be careful when things are unsure. In the end, Rimuru thought that what Raisin said or meeting Ghidorah wasn't that important because of the upcoming battle. Diablo's insistence on the matter seemed more like an excuse to avoid involvement, but Rimuru noticed Adelman's unease. Understanding the feeling of being caught between leaving and staying when unexpected matters arise, Rimuru decided to address Adelman's discomfort. Adelman then revealed a personal connection to Ghidorah, expressing a sense of familiarity. Surprised by this revelation, Rimuru reassured Adelman and acknowledged his right to have friends, dispelling any notion of betrayal. Then Rimuru asked Diablo to withhold his opinion while Adelman shared more about his connection with Ghidorah, revealing they were close friends over 1,000 years ago. Despite the likelihood of Ghidorah being deceased, his mastery in wizardry could have prolonged his life. Adelman mentioned Raisin as one of Ghidorah's primary apprentices, confirming their identities. Rimuru, impressed by Diablo's efficiency, instructed him to schedule a meeting with Ghidorah, supported by the lack of objections from the other secretary. Thus, Rimuru decided to proceed with the meeting, giving Ghidorah a chance. After their defeat on floor 60, Shinji's group experienced resurrection for the first time. They woke up to a large crowd expressing various reactions, from gratitude to curiosity about their adversaries. The battles in the dungeon were being broadcast live, adding to their popularity. Despite the option to decline the broadcast, Shinji and his companions signed on for 2 reasons: to earn a share of the broadcast fees and to enhance their safety by gaining recognition. The crowd's questions ranged from speculation about the powerful monsters they faced to the dragon's potential involvement in the battle. Shinji's group smiled and waved as they left. while the audience continued to voice their support and anticipation for their next attempt.
That's it for today, guys, and thanks for watching the video. Stay tuned for next chapter. Until then, goodbye.